and activists to talk about an issue which should not have become an issue in the first place, particularly because our country is facing an economic crisis. Our children are not going to schools because they don't have food to eat at home, and because their parents are not getting paid enough wages. So parents are unable to bear the cost of living and send their children to school. So these are very important issues which our country is currently facing. But our parliamentarians, including very responsible minister, the education minister, has decided to focus his attention on the attire of women. The reason we had called this press conference today is to talk about the issue of saree and the fact that responsible members of parliament and the minister of education had said teachers should only wear saree because that is a teacher should be wearing saree because it concerns because teachers are in a very responsible position, and it affects. I mean, children are looking at the teacher, so they should wear something respectable, and it affects because teachers are in this respectable position. They need to uphold our culture and tradition, and therefore teachers must wear the sari. Now there are several problematic issues in the statement of the Minister of Education, particularly because first and foremost he is the Minister of Education and he can't talk as if he's just like anybody else. He's in a responsible position, so he needs to be conscious of what he is saying in Parliament as well as in public spaces. First and foremost, when you talk about the economic crisis, men should not be telling women what attire we should wear during an economic crisis, because sari, much as everyone likes to call it cultural and that this and the other, sari is not a inexpensive attire. When you wear a sari, you need to wear a blouse, you need to wear an underskirt, you need to iron the sari. It takes several minutes to iron the sari, and you need to dress the sari also before you come to work. On top of looking after, because the domestic burden of looking after children also falls on women in this country. On top of everything else, you need to get dressed into a sari also. So getting dressed in a sari is not as simple as what the male ministers like to think. It is a very costly affair, and it is also a timely affair. So as teachers who perform this very responsible duty of not only upbringing the children, or of not only teaching the children, but also looking after the psychological welfare of the children, the teachers have many things to worry about. So the least we can do is to make their jobs comfortable and allow them to wear whatever they want to wear, whatever which is comfortable. And we don't have to tell the teachers what they should wear and what they should not wear in terms of what is appropriate. I think the teachers can decide for themselves what is appropriate, and they should be given the decision. I mean, they are teaching children, so they should be given the decision and the autonomy to decide what is appropriate attire or not, and they should be allowed to wear that. And I don't think the Minister of Education need to preach teachers as to what is suitable and what is not suitable attire for children and so on. So that is first thing. The second thing is this whole emphasis on culture. It's very ironic that men who wear pants and shirts and so on, and men who travel in, for instance, motor vehicles and use cell phones and use every other thing which is used and produced from Western countries, have the audacity to talk about culture when it comes to women's attire. None of us are following culture here. There is nothing called culture as such, because all our cultures are intermingled and mixed up. And there is nothing called traditional culture, and someone has to, particularly the woman, has to be the bearer of culture, is something which is ridiculous. Because I can challenge and ask the Minister of Education whether he only travels in a bullock cart and he does not use cell phones and he does not use anything which comes from the Western from Western states and Western culture, and whether he does not himself wear a Western attire is a question which I want to ask. So this women has to be the bearer of culture is also another ridiculous argument, and it is only usually the argument of culture only comes about when it comes to women's attire. No one questions as to why male teachers, for instance, wear pants and shirt, and then the cultural argument does not come. Since this cultural argument in itself is contradictory and ridiculous. And the third thing, which is the most important thing, is when we say teachers are in a respectable positions and children look up to teachers and therefore teachers have to wear sari, what is the message we are sending to the younger generation? That a woman has to be only respected if she wears a sari. And this is a very important question which I want to raise, because when a woman goes through sexual harassment and rape and sexual assault, the first question which anyone raises in this society, including the police and including society and including the media, is what was she wearing? That is the first question which anyone raises. So when you continue to intermingle culture and the respect of women with her attire, then what is our children thinking? They are thinking that only a woman who dresses sari should be respected and every other woman does not have to be respected. And this is what feeds into this culture of misogyny and patriarchy, which says that women only has to be respected if she's attired in a particular way. And much as the Honorable Minister might not have thought about these things, this is something which affects women on a day-to-day basis, where when she goes through sexual violence, the first question which is asked from her is, what were you wearing? Why were you wearing that? Did you provoke the man by wearing a certain attire? So the responsible Minister of Education, the Minister of Education should not feed into these stereotypes and should not feed into what would become violence against women, and what is the kind of messaging which we are giving children as to what kind of woman should be respected. A woman need not be respected based on her attire. A woman should be respected based on the type of job she does and whether she does a job well or not. And that is why a teacher should be respected, whether she has done a job well or not. That is when the teacher's respect comes. So finally, what I would like to say is, teachers are already bearing a lot of burden in this society. They are teaching children who don't have enough food to eat today. They are teaching children whose parents might not have electricity at home because the parents can't afford electricity. So there is so many important issues which go on in this country, and teachers have to bear the burden of all of that in terms of bringing the children back into the school, making sure that the child is not psychologically affected because of the economic crisis, and making sure that despite the economic crisis and despite the lack of food, the child is still earning. So that is the responsibility which the teachers bear today. So the least we can do is to make it comfortable for teachers to come and teach in a comfortable way and not put unnecessary burden on them by talking about unnecessary things like the dress code of teachers. Thank you.